All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to MBA Banter with Madhu, Erons, and Himanshu.
Hi,
And
good
welcome to
morning.
episode 2.
Hi guys.
All right. So, in today's episode, we are going to take off from a question that our dear friend, Mr. Himanshu, left us with. So, Himanshu, could you recap and tell us about what the question was and start off by answering it yourself?
Okay. So, Madhu, in the last episode, I was very eager and keen to understand uh, what we felt and how we felt about if there was any imposter syndrome moment in each one of our lives when we entered the WBS. And as far as the answer to is concerned, yes. I mean, when I recall and when I go back to that wonderful 1 year, I did feel at times, yes, encumbered because those emotions were, on hindsight, actually an outcome of my own thought processes. So when I was sitting with people who were relatively younger and who were relatively from a different background, so I felt whether it was the right decision for me to come over here when I'm in a cohort which is an average age of 32. And also I consider myself not that much digitally advanced. Probably a kind of an old school, So there, all those moments plus few papers, for example, financial management and especially the examination. Yes. In those moments, I felt that probably I should have given it another thought. But yes, they were like fleeting emotions. And after 3 months, and especially after the second term began, it always felt that I was at home. So, what was your reaction, Erons? How did you feel?
So thank you very much, Himanshu, for that. The truth is, I felt it at some point, but I can honestly say it was quite short-lived. I think it initially started when, we did the whole personality tests, even before the MBA started, and I received the whole 32-page document that was telling me about me and making things more salient. So things I knew about myself, and I was like, how is this? I would say it was over 90% accurate. But what that then did was it raised certain questions in my head, like, will I be able to cope in this sort of environment? Will I be able to cope with the intensity that is about to be 1 year of an MBA? But I would say the good thing was coming into the program right from the first day of the MBA, we were already in syndicates, so groups of 6 or 7, depending on the size of the group, um, with people with different profiles as well and different personality traits. And to a large extent, there were a lot of situations where you have this person's trait complementing this trait. So there was that careful selection of people. And given that the first week was full of group activities and spending a lot of time with these people, it sort of helped settle in and become a lot more comfortable, to the point where that self belief started to grow and sort of how the rest of the year set the tone for how the rest of the year went. So I mean, even though yes, there was that self belief, there definitely were challenges throughout. Dealing with tight deadlines. I recall in December of that year when my bag got stolen. My bag that had my laptop and my phone and my
Yes.
wallet. One
Oh,
week before we were to turn in 2
yes.
papers that I was pretty much done with.
Yes.
At that point, I remember that day so clearly. I wasn't even thinking, my laptop has been stolen, my phone has been stolen. And I was thinking, oh snap, my papers are on my laptop. You know, unfortunately they weren't backed up to the cloud. But by the time I got a new one, everything was going straight to the cloud. So lesson learned, and I guess a piece of advice to anyone out there: if you have important work that isn't on the cloud
I have
right
noted
now,
it down. I have noted
please
it
put it
down.
on the
I'll
cloud.
be careful. Yes.
Please put it
So,
on
so
the please put it on the
My
cloud.
heart broke when that happened to you, man. That
oh
was
yes, yes. That
really
was very,
something.
very scary news. That was very scary. Yeah. Before we go to Madhu, Erons, I want to ask you that when you saw people from different nationalities, completely different cultures, what was your thought process? What was the first thing which came into mind? Because why I'm asking you this question is because for me, uh, going, going forward and start talking to somebody, it takes a while, it takes a time. I have to settle myself,
Mhm.
so that is me. But how did you react to it? How did you approach the situation?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a lot of learning and just observing in the initial stage. So, for instance, in the Nigerian culture, I mean, I grew up in Nigeria, right? So, in the Nigerian culture, we tend to be very close knit, and even when you're interacting with somebody, you're standing close to the person, like there's that sort of like intimacy when you're having conversations with people. But one of the first things that I noticed after moving here was not everyone was like that. Like for some people, there was this whole like respect my personal space thing. Initially, that was one of the first things that sort of caught me by surprise. There, I had noticed that like every time I was having a conversation with a particular person, the space between us just seemed to be increasing, and it sort of then led me to question: Am I doing something wrong? But I eventually noticed that like it wasn't me, and like it wasn't a problem with the person as well. It was just a difference in culture, a difference in way of interacting. um and like that was one of the first things that I had to learn, that different people have different cultures, different people have different ways they like to interact, different people have different ways they like to be treated, or the ways they like to be spoken to, you know and that was one of the first things that I noticed. And you had to make that conscious effort. Initially there was that: take a step back, observe before throwing yourself forward. And then it became easier over time as you were able to build relationships with people.
Hey, that was great. That was profound.
Yeah.
Coming straight from the heart, right?
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
Madhu, the question which I have to ask you is,
Mhm.
knowing you as a person and knowing your multifarious personality, did you ever had the feeling that of imposter syndrome?
It's it's great that you
Because
asked me
you
that
are you
question.
are one of the most friendly people, extrovert, who gets assimilated in a crowd in a matter of seconds. Like so,
So yes, I actually did not, in all honesty, face that challenge. I felt like I belonged here. Um, in terms of this school has been calling out to me since years. Let's just put it that way. And when I came here, I truly felt at home, including. Do you remember the first time that we've all interacted with each other at the induction day?
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah, so I was happy just going around the room, smiling, going myself, and hi, I'm Madhu, Madhu from India, Madhu from India. Then people would ask me where in India, I'd say Mumbai. So then after that, I became Madhu from Mumbai because it was just exhausting to keep always like, okay, I'm from India, where in India? Okay, Mumbai. So I got over, that whole thing quite quickly. I was happy to be in a new environment. But similar to what Erons spoke about the whole space thing, I realized that my energy is not for everyone. not everyone can handle the phenomena or whatever you want to call me that Madhumita Menon is. So that is something that I learned to later not take personally. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that that person doesn't like me. It could just mean that my energy, and Erons made me also realize this because it's something that I shared with him, that, and I have a typical problem. If you watched Friends, Monica's character in Friends, everyone has to like her. So I relate to Monica on that front, So it does kind of upset me if someone's not reciprocating my friendliness. As you said, I'm very friendly, full of life, or my gestures, etc. But that's where I realized that it's just not for everyone. It's not that it's something that I need to take personally. So I did tone down my personality maybe during certain interactions consciously, simply because I didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable in my presence, or that I'm not someone who can adapt to a situation. So while I would say that I'm able to adapt to an environment, etc., it was truly tested after coming
Yeah.
to the UK. I may have been 10 different Madhumitas in that same day just to be able to reach out to 10 different audiences. So
But all of them were great. Just just thought
thank
to
you,
stress
thank
that.
you. Yes, but that's true. Like when I speak with Himanshu, say I speak to him in a certain way. We even go in and out between two languages. When I'm speaking with you, I have to be conscious that of certain things. Maybe there are certain cultural things that you would not get, like certain jokes which I can crack with Himanshu. So consciously, I started making that effort in terms of people who I interacted with. A lot of people tell me I speak very fast. So automatically, if I know that I am not speaking to a native speaker, I consciously tone down the speed or speak more clearly, be more articulate while communicating. And these are just general things which I think we need to be aware of when we are working or studying in a multicultural environment. We've all chosen to come here, we've all chosen to experience this, and that involves changing, that involves breaking down who you are into fragments. I'm not, because all of you may not be for everyone, sorry, but that doesn't mean that they can't experience bits and parts of you. So that is something, Himanshu, that I learned about myself. Of course, there it's similar to, we don't just have differences. There are similarities too.
Yeah.
And the one thing that really got all of us together in the MBA was food, man.
I was just gonna say that.
Nigerian food, Indian food, and like from the different parts of India as well. Indian food is not just butter chicken or chicken tikka masala. As there are so many varieties of Indian food, and I learned about jollof rice and joke chicken and things of that sort from Erons, who's fed me plenty, all those things. Chinese food. So I am very accustomed to Indian Chinese, or what we call in India Indo-Chinese, which is
Yes.
fantastic, just by the way.
Yeah. That's
But
mind
I
blowing.
also
Yes.
but I also had my Chinese friends make authentic Chinese food for me, which was delicious. And the way it's made, it's fascinating. British food. I've even had food from Uzbekistan. I would have
Oh,
never imagined. Oh look, yes, he had prepare a meal for us. So Indonesian food, everything. It was absolutely fantastic. So truly, what bound us together was the food and the different cultures that we experienced. Yeah, fantastic.
great, great. So Madhu has given me a point to ponder, like where she elaborated upon the kind of changes which she brought in her personality, whether consciously or unconsciously, or while adapting to the new environment, and talking about that space, and while trying to traverse the space, how she adapted and that adaptability led to some changes, which has now become an integral and inherent part of a character. So I'm quite inquisitive about knowing from you that was there any particular change which you brought in your personality in terms of your thought processes when you were trying to figure out how to bridge that space, right? We all know we are grown up adults, and we know that with certain people that space cannot be that gap cannot ever be bridged. But there are certain people who, I mean, it's a kind of a win-win situation where they are also willing to come forward, and we as human beings, individuals, we also try to come forward. And in course of meeting in the middle of the bridge, we are little if not come drastically or radically changed people. We have some changes which we have consciously unconsciously brought within ourselves. So what was that with you, Erons?
One of the key benefits of this MBA year, like I keep saying, is I became a lot more self-aware. I got to know myself better, which is interesting because after 29 years you would think you know yourself, and then you have this amazing 1 year that really shows you who you are. So I'll sort of defer back to the personality test that we did, right? When we initially did it, my major character traits were more of like an empathetic type of individual, like supportive and thinking about people and like caring about people. That was the good part. Now the one trait that was really missing was that red energy, which was taking charge and leading things. I mean, in my professional career, I had held leadership positions, like where I've had to like lead teams. But I also noticed that like with my style of leadership, it was also one that also focused on bringing everybody together and like bringing everybody's thoughts together and making decisions as a team, as opposed to sometimes taking a step back and thinking as a leader what could be best for the team. Now, one of the things that then happened during the MBA was I realized the need to also grow that aspect of myself, of trying to take the lead on certain things. So in a lot of the time when we had like group activities, I made a conscious effort to also like throw myself forward and say, you know what, I want to take the lead on this project. I want to take the lead on this task. Whilst in the initial state, at the beginning, like when you're even throwing yourself out there, you might not have a full understanding of what the challenge is or what exactly it is you're trying to solve. But like just intentionally putting myself in those positions that I probably ordinarily wouldn't have put myself in sort of also helped me build that leadership characteristic where throughout the course of the MBA, like I would never shy away from taking the lead on certain group tasks or certain group projects. It also made me more vocal, making my point known. Yes, things don't necessarily have to be done the exact way that I might want them to be, because at the same time, like I'm still reasonable. I would listen to reason and listen to other people's points of view. And obviously, if there's a thought process that is better than mine, or that might work better, I'm fully ready to like accept that. But putting myself forward and sharing my thoughts put me in that position, helped me avoid that situation where in the moment you don't say anything, and then 24 hours later you're then thinking to yourself, I should have said this thing at this time, and by that time like it's probably too late. So I started to speak up a lot more, and took like more leadership positions on like on certain tasks. And there was a feel good feeling to it, because it felt like, yes, I already had like those supportive traits and the empathetic side of it. Now I was also building those leadership traits and like the associated energies with that, and it was quite refreshing for me, because it was like I was making a conscious effort to do this thing, and I was seeing the impact of this thing that I was doing. So that was actually quite good.
So, and Madhu, I also want to ask you that I know you are very amiable, amicable, amenable, all the three A, the personality.
Himanshu, you're married. And you have a very lovely wife. I'm joking. Yes, go on.
Yes, no, I know I may sound ingratiating at this point of time, but that's the truth. And having said that, I want to understand that was there ever a situation where there was a conflict or a tussle between the 3A Madhu and the real Madhu which lies inside? So, why I'm asking this, because I'll be very forthcoming and candid here. Uh, at times, or a little more than a couple of times, I felt that there was a conflict within me. I wanted to react in if I wanted to, if I would have allowed myself to react in that natural manner, disposition which I have, it would have led to an altercation or not so pleasant interaction with one person or a couple of people. And then I allowed my suave side to take over and and be diplomatic and diplomatically navigate out of that a little confusing moment. Or so Madhu, I want to know, because I know you, we both of us, we know you, like we have known you, and we understand that you are sensitive, and but you do not have, you have a clear heart. But still, I mean, I wonder, because a woman's heart, Erons, nobody knows the depth of it.
Wow. The number of compliments that Himanshu pays me, no one else does that. Thank you. But
The most,
you are right, Himanshu. It's not that I didn't have struggles. Of course, especially in term one, I felt like Erons, I sort of took a step back in terms of leading things, because I felt that that red energy. So just to give the audience here some perspective, the psychometric analysis that we went through prior to embarking on the MBA, our personality types were characterized with certain colors. So largely, red was for a more task-oriented and fierce sort of individual. Blue is someone who's highly analytical. Um, Green is someone who is very empathetic, which Erons already explained, and yellow is someone who's affable, lively. So there was a lot of red energy, on certain occasions in the room. Um, and red is actually the color that is least assigned to me. So the most would be yellow, green, which makes sense. Then comes blue, and then red. Surprisingly enough, because it's not that, just like Erons, I took the test properly, and 90% I could relate to most of the test. So I was surprised actually to see red last. But anyway, that's what it was. So yes, considering the red energy that could be in a room, especially, everyone's coming um, after working for X number of years. There's a lot that we all want to prove sitting in that room. And Himanshu, I can't imagine after working for 2 decades to then come to a room and say certain concepts which you probably know about, again being explained to you, or you taking that back seat after being in a leadership role. It must have been tough. It was tough for me after almost 9 years of working. But like Erons, at a later stage, then I tried to be a little more assertive in terms of, yes, I'd like to take this up. I'd like to take that up, because back in Mumbai, I was managing, 40 people. So of course, that little bit of an ego hit is definitely there when you are not the one who's leading something. But that's also something which we need to anyway unlearn. that there are different roles that we would take up at different stages of our career, in our life also for that matter.
Yeah.
So there was a certain amount of unlearning also that I did in term one. Now that, and I'm also a Leo, just to give my audience a little more perspective. So I have, oh yes, you're my fellow Leo. So Leo energy is something else. And then on top of that, you add this whole Bollywood element and everything. My Leo energy is very high. So Leos naturally like to be leaders. And now I understand, Erons, why you and I have had similar experiences in term one. It's the same energy. So yes, Himanshu, it's not that I didn't struggle, but today I am definitely a more confident person. I'm comfortable in my skin no matter what role I take on. There are no small roles.
That's
I
great.
think
That's
we're
great.
all working towards one cause, and that's how we should look at things when we're working on a project together. So yes.
That's great. That leads me to another question, Madhu. So if I'm allow me if I'm
Yep.
I mean correct me if I'm wrong. What I can gather is that when you started with the MBA in the MBA journey, you must have decided to go with the flow, right? Or you had some
Yeah.
preconceived objectives or preordained targets in your mind.
I knew I
What
wanted to be
was there in your
remembered.
mind? I mean, getting into a great illustrious B school
Yeah.
like Warwick was one big milestone achieved for
Absolutely.
all of us, right?
Yeah.
And then when you start into that journey,
Yeah.
so did you ask yourself or did your mind ask you what next, what now?
Yes. I knew I wanted to be remembered. I knew that this was the platform which is going to launch my next phase of life in terms of personal life, career, whatever it is. I knew that this was my launch pad, and I wanted to be known as brand Madhumita. So that was the one goal that I came in with, and I'm happy to say that on on a broad level, that is something that I was able to build over here. Sorry, and that there were people who were able to relate to me, who I could connect with, and yeah, brand Madhumita's next goal is to make it on the Warwick Business School wall.
Oh, that's great. That's inspiring. That's actually inspiring. No, I'm not laughing. I'm very serious
Yes,
and I'm
yes,
quite
yes.
inspired by that. What about you, Erons? What was there in your mind when you entered into the WBS induction the very first day on the 26th of September 2022 at 9 a.m. in the morning?
Wow.
Hey, Rons, were you on time? Or were you a
Apart
few
from
minutes early?
apart from apart from noting apart from taking a look at beautiful faces from all across the globe, what else was in your mind?
Well, one of the first things on my mind was I really should have gotten a proper jacket because this hoodie is not cutting it for this weather. you know. But for me, there was a lot of excitement. Maybe it's also linked to the fact that I had been out of like a formal learning environment for what, 7 years. And I, just for context, I grew up in a university because both my parents worked in a university, so it kind of felt like being home, right? Which is why I could relate a lot with like the war, the environment, and it was quite exciting for me. But at the time, there was I was thinking to myself, okay, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to like meet a lot of people. I'm going to be learning a lot of things. In the initial stage that I was deciding to do the MBA, my focus was on networking, on meeting new people, on learning new things. I wasn't really thinking much about what then happens after, like after you learn all those things, what is the overall, what then happens next. So my mind started to shift towards impact. So what sort of impact am I looking to leave? Like, after achieving all these things, what exactly do I then want to do with these things? What do I want to do with this network that I have built? And one of the things that I got inspired by was this whole idea of being a change maker, and just, you don't have to wait until all the conditions are perfect for what you want to achieve. Like, just start from wherever it is, that you are. And that's one of the things that I did. Like, I started to do some work back home, actually in my high school, back home in the time. And whilst this may not necessarily be linked to like the MBA learnings or what we're taught in class, it was more about how I was growing as an individual during the course of the of the program. But like, overall, what I then wanted was, okay, so at the end of this course, the impact is, on my career, and breaking into that investment management space here in the UK as well. Start to leverage some of these networks that I have built to start a career here as well, and have that sort of impact that I can have on improving the financial well-being of individuals, which really was my motivation for getting into finance in the first place. I believe that, like, during this MBA and all the learnings from the MBA, we're going to put me on that platform where I can then get to that position where I'm able to achieve that. And I dare say, like, I'm on that path. And during the MBA has made it clearer in my head, and now, like, I have a clearer view of the future and like what exactly it is that I want to do, and that's where I currently am. But I was
Perfect.
just gonna say, Himanshu, like, you've asked us these questions, first about like any changes that we noticed with us, but like, tell us about you. Let's hear from you. Tell us about Himanshu, the brand that is Himanshu.
Okay. Okay. So finally, so yeah, I mean, yes, I did make some conscious efforts because, as Madhu rightly said, it was in the first term, for initial few weeks, it was actually very difficult, gargantuan task for me to come to the level with a relatively younger syndicate, and with a relatively relatively, I should say, uh, a kind of a thought process which was not that much. At times, I feel it was little not mature. So I had to change my outlook very consciously, and I had to remind myself that it's not necessary that everyone should be right at every point of time, right? There can be confusions, there can be complications, and at times I also felt that allowing the syndicate to evolve on its own, even though I am knowing that they are thinking, the rest of the syndicate is thinking in a vertically opposite direction, and but still I allowed them to think and go as far as possible, knowing that they will have to take a 180-degree turn and come back. But that's the way a person or a team evolves, and
Yeah.
this I learned. And yeah, the second thing, yes, I had I it was a milestone for me, of course. And when I entered the room, the hall where the induction was being held, there was two feelings which were primarily at the back of my mind. The first was I was little intimidated by the opulence of talent which was there. Trust me, I would say, I mean, I may sound a little poetic, but the opulence of talent which was lying around, I was intimidated. That was the first thing. And second thing was, I was at till that point of time, I was not sure what do I expect from a career perspective after this particular MBA. So that probably was not the opportune moment. That 26th of September was not the opportune moment to mull over that particular question. But somehow that question came into my mind and it refused to leave me for a couple of days. So that was about me. And yeah, I mean, I'll be very honest with you. There were few people who I did not like interacting with. Nevertheless, I learned at in WBS how to smile without the smile not reaching your eyes, and that and that was only with few people, but that trait I have learned, and at times I feel that that trait is gonna be very useful in the rest of my life. So one last question for this episode, Erons and Madhu. After having completed now 11 assignments, one big huge dissertation, compare yourself to that very day when Hosam was talking to us about assignment and how fearful or how apprehensive all of us were. What will be your answer to the people who are watching this, especially that segment of the population who is gonna enter WBS or any other B school in next few years? Because all of us, we go through that cycle. So Madhu, to you first.
I'm thinking, and I'm also thinking, this is good content for episode 3.
Oh, perfect. So we leave this here, and
Yes.
we in the next episode we do promise to come back with what actually how did we evolve from a non-writer to a kind of an academic writer expert in our own areas now.
Yes.
So till then, bye bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
guys.
tuning in, and look forward to next Sunday for episode 3. Take care.
Bye, guys.